Hey, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of the Rockstar Manifestors podcast. I'm Patty, and I am the founder and manifestation coach here at Blue Moon Manifestations. And so I am going to dive right in. I am sharing and talking with you about today, the last quarter of the year, because that is what we just recently kicked off. So, my question to you, I like to start oftentimes with a question, is what thoughts or feelings come to mind when I say we just started the fourth or the final quarter of the year? What thoughts or feelings come up for you? If you're anything like I used to be, you might start feeling a bit like shit right now, because you start noticing that you're feeling frustrated, angry, maybe resentful as we get to and work through or kind of move through this time of year, because you start realizing or maybe paying attention to or thinking about all the things that you haven't done or accomplished, that you wanted to this year, or that you planned to, or that you thought you would. And because of that, you start beating yourself up a bit with your negative self-talk or with some negative self-talk. Maybe you start thinking things like, well, there's another year down the drain. Why am I no further ahead or even worse off than I was last year or at the beginning of the year? Or you start noticing or having or just kind of running thoughts like that in the background. And along with that, you might start either consciously or unconsciously really thinking or believing or acting as, well, I haven't done it so far, so I guess I'm just going to have to wait for the beginning of the year, for the next year come January or somewhere in that vicinity. And I am no longer a proponent of this. I mean, not that this has ever been a good method for me. It never benefited me thinking or believing this way or, having these thoughts. But I've also come to really and truly believe that the beginning of the year, January 1st, is not any more magical than the rest of the year, right? There's nothing more magical than the day. That January 1st is a man-made time constraint or time, delineation, right? We created, or human beings created, this Gregorian calendar where it's like, oh, that's the beginning of the year. That's when everything starts. There's absolutely no need, no truth to that, no value. And so when we reach this time of the year, and especially I think also because the holidays have play a part in that as well. It's like, oh, there's all this stuff to do. I can't do anything else. I can't make progress on anything else because I'm just too busy this time of year. So all these types of thoughts and beliefs kind of are like going around like a cyclone, maybe inside your head. But the overall answer, getting back to if you're having thoughts like that, like another year down the drain, or oh, and well, before I move on to the next thing, the reason I started saying that there's no specific magic to waiting or planning to start on January 1st or thereabouts is that if in this time of year we start thinking that way, or you start feeling that way as well, it's almost like you're setting yourself up for failure. You're going into the beginning part of the year with a bit of a defeatist attitude. And I am going to talk about this more in detail in a future episode later on this fall as we get closer to the end of this year. But I did want to just throw that in there, that with those thoughts, like, oh, well, I might as well wait, till the beginning of the year and not take any action now or not worry about making any progress, it sets you up to start the year with a bit of a defeatist attitude. So just kind of keep that on simmer. And I will talk a bit more about that in a future episode. But now getting back to, if you're someone who frequently or even occasionally has these thoughts about the year being a waste and nothing happening, and why are things not different? Why have you not accomplished things that you planned or wanted or, thought you would have? The overall, kind of like the umbrella overall answer to that is because you haven't done anything different than you have before. You're repeating the same patterns and the same processes, maybe not in the exact same areas of life, but overall, you're not doing anything differently than you had before. You ultimately, at a core level, have not changed your identity or how you see yourself. Maybe you see yourself, based on old stories that you've experienced, and you have developed beliefs and identities around that. Maybe your identity is strongly shaped or formed, or you're attached to how other people see you and their expectations, or how they see you, like what they think your habits are, what they think your downfalls are, what they think, is possible or not possible for you. So you have not changed that. You're living in this current or past identity that is not going to be the identity that moves you forward or that creates change. And to give you an example of what I mean by this, I'll share with you my example of identifying. I used to identify. Well, let me go back a little bit. I have not always been a business owner and had a company or a business of my own. Up until 5 years ago, I was always an employee. I had a job of some sort or another working for an employer. So my example speaks to that identity. I made changes and saw my circumstances change in my life when I went from identifying as an employee to identifying as a business owner and an entrepreneur. Even while I was still an employee, I'm still an employee. I still have a smaller level, but I still have work that I do, that I work for someone else. But that has shifted the dynamic and how I approach that and the things that I'm doing in that capacity. Everything started to change. And like I said, I saw different results. I started taking different actions. The more I learned or stepped into identifying as a business owner, I began taking different actions. I began thinking differently. And results that I manifested and that I saw become reality, for example, are having the time and location freedom to work from anywhere. In the job that I was doing, in the capacity that I was doing it back then, shortly after I started this company, let's say a couple years in or so, I was doing a lot of field work, which meant going out to the field to different appointments, different locations. I wasn't working in an office and I wasn't 100% working from home. I did a lot of field work for for part of my job. And then after that, I would come back home and do like my reports and all the other admin things, let's say, at home. So it was a combination of that type of scenario. And I frequently said and thought back then that I don't have the time to grow and build my business. I found myself thinking and believing that and taking action or, living a life that I used to say, I live my life on the weekends because I have no schedule during the week, no set schedule. It's very haphazard and I don't control my schedule. Others are in control of my schedule. So I don't have time to work on my business consistently. I did it in pockets of time, which was still doing something. So I'm giving myself credit for that because in that period and season of my life, that's what I knew. So that's what I did until I started intentionally and on purpose making changes. So as a result of changing my thinking, changing the things that I said to myself, which changed my beliefs about things, I manifested and experienced the result of being in charge of my own schedule. They used to schedule, like our office, my office used to schedule my appointments, for all of us, and we would then go. It changed to that where all of us who were doing field work were in charge of our own schedule, making our own appointments in a way that so I could start setting up my day in a way that felt better for me. I wasn't just kind of randomly not knowing where I was going. I had more of a plan and more structure. And that led to me putting more time into my business in those pockets of time, which then led to completely being in charge of my entire day, being able to set my day how I want, work in pockets of time for both, have designated time slots ahead of time for my business and for my job. And I was able to then see changes. And then I started think, and also along the way, not at a separate time, but concurrently started thinking differently. Well, I'm in control of my time. I can work from wherever. I have, an internet access and a phone and a computer, and I do field work anyway. So I can also build my business this way. I can work remotely. I can take time and go work from other places. I'm not attached to having to live my life on the weekends and fit my business into pockets. And so I started seeing and experiencing different results. And as of today, I can, for both my job and my business, I can work from anywhere as long as I have an internet connection, a phone, and a computer. So I can go do things with family. I can go to different places. I'm not attached to, oh, well, they might need me here, or I don't have time to go to this activity because of a random appointment. I am in control of that. And those things evolved and became reality as I changed the way I thought about things. And I changed the things that I was doing, the actions that I was taking. And so now I have that time freedom and location freedom that I only once dreamed about. But I wouldn't be experiencing this and have this if I had stayed in the thinking and the belief that I don't have time to grow my business and that other people are in control of my time. I had to change that way of thinking and take actions accordingly. And it wasn't always comfortable, and it wasn't always easy, and it wasn't always a smooth transition, but I stuck with it. And I did those actions, and I took the act, and I learned, okay, well, if that didn't work in this time frame, maybe I can shift things around to another time frame. So that's an example of me going from identifying as an employee to identifying as a business owner and entrepreneur, even though I still had and have a job. It just looks completely different than it did back then. So think of an example, maybe, of an identity that you have. You might not want to start a business. Maybe you have other aspirations that require a different identity or an identity shift for you. And see what identity you need to develop and step into. And if you're not quite sure what that is or how to do that, hang tight. At the end of the episode, I do have an exercise activity that can maybe help with that. So that's why, let me tie this back, come back around, at least half circle. The reason that you have not seen changes, or the reason that you haven't accomplished things that you wanted to, is because you have not done anything different, because you're not identifying as the person who does those things and takes those actions. And in last week's episode, it was part of the Lunar Year series. I shared about how the fourth quarter of the year, which is the one we're in now, aligns with the last quarter of the lunar cycle, which is the dreamy phase of the lunar cycle, hence the dreamy season of the year. And if you haven't checked it out yet, you can listen to it. It's the episode right before this. And this is part of a year-long series that I'm doing in real time. So I actually started with the spring season, aligning with the first quarter moon phase, and moved to summer, which was the full moon phase. And now we're in the third quarter, final quarter, and it is the last quarter, the fall season, and the last quarter of the lunar cycle. Lots of overlays. So check those out if you haven't, or if you're interested in learning about that. And there's one more remaining. I'm going to wrap up the series with winter and the new moon. So I'm ending with the new moon, which just goes to show that you don't have to do things in any particular order. You can jump in and get started at any time, including now, the final quarter of the year and the last quarter of which lines up with the last quarter of the lunar cycle. So if this final quarter of the year, this fall season, is the dreamy season, why not start dreaming up a new reality for yourself? And more specifically, start dreaming up and getting clear on the person that you want to be. And if that doesn't quite, like, I don't know what you mean, Patty, by the person that I want to be, think about who is the person that has accomplished and is living the things that I want. If I'm not experiencing this now, the things that I want, or at least to the capacity that I want, what do I need to do differently? And how do I need to show up differently as a different version of myself in order to attract that reality and take those actions, start thinking that way? This shift in, looking at the identity, looking at who I needed to be in order to achieve the things that I want, is the thing that made the biggest difference in the actions that I started taking, and what also ultimately led to the developing of my manifesting me concept. Past versions of me and the current version of me back then were not the versions that were going to make the changes. They were not the version of me that was going to do things differently. I had to, on purpose, become that person who was already living, having, and doing the things that I wanted. And I realized, as this became my way of looking at things and my way of thinking and existing and taking action, I realized that making myself the focus and who I needed and wanted to become took the pressure off of trying to decide or figure out what goal I was going to be working towards, or what area of life I was going to be focusing on, and like trying to decide what is the right area, what is the right goal for me at this time. Yes, it's important to have goals and identify them. And at the same time, it's important to not make them the only focus. Once you identify them, once you know them, it's like, okay, great. They're going to hang out there. I know what they are. I don't need to only focus on that. And that might be counterintuitive, especially depending on some things, methods and things that people share. It's like, keep that goal in mind. And yes, you need to know where you're going. You need to know what it is that you want to have or achieve or experience. But let that hang there. You're not going to forget. You're not going to forget what your dreams are. You're not going to forget what your goals are by not focusing on it every single day. You're not going to forget that you want, like for me, example, I wasn't going to forget that I wanted to become a business owner and full-time entrepreneur. So I'm going to forget that. So I don't need to focus and write that down in a journal every day. If that is what works for you, or, you've seen results that way, then fabulous, because one way does not fit all. So, but for me, letting go of having that primary focus, like, okay, I already know I want to be an entrepreneur. I know that's my goal, and to be a full-time entrepreneur is my goal. I personally don't need to write that down or check in on that every single day. So I said it took the pressure off of trying to figure out what goal to be on, and it helped me, or what goal to work towards. And it helped me let go of the attachment to the timing. Like, when is it going to happen? As well as how. Like, when am I going to, finally achieve this? When is it going to happen? How long is it going to take? How many steps do I need to get to before I can reach that benchmark that I can become this full-time entrepreneur, right? It helped me let go of that, because the focus continues to be, and I bring myself back to being that entrepreneur and business owner right now. How does that full-time entrepreneur, business owner schedule their day? What actions is she focused on? What are the priority things instead of the busy work? That's how I am shifting my reality and my identity, by asking myself and checking in with myself on those types of questions. So it takes the pressure off of the timing, and it takes the pressure off of, oh my gosh, which goal do I work towards right now? Or what do I need to change, right now, urgently? And I will talk about this. There's areas of life you can focus on, guided based on where the new moon is each lunar cycle. And I will talk a bit about that in other episodes as well, or else we'll be here for hours. And that's not the point of this, of this podcast. So, focusing on who I wanted to be and become helped me let go of the attachment and relieved the pressure of, what do I need to focus on? Because I always know it's me. I need to focus on me and what I am doing, instead of where I'm going, if that makes sense. And so by making myself the focus instead of the result actually started happening much more easily, and without all the, what's a good word for that? It's, I didn't have all of the anxiety. No, that's not quite right. Like the urgency, that's the word. Without the urgency of, oh my gosh, I need to make this happen right now, or I need to make this happen by so and so, because that actually pushed it further out and made it take longer, if that makes sense. And so ultimately what I realized is that by working on myself, I also actually began to see results in multiple areas of my life at the same time, or very near each other, right? Instead of making fitness a focus one month and finances a focus another month. Yes, I might need to be taking specific actions towards those things at different times of my life, but I didn't need to let go of the desire or the goal of improving my health by working on my finances, because those are all aspects of our life all the time, right? If you think of the you that you are right now, at any point in time, our family, our work, our friends, our social life, our finances, those are all aspects of our life all the time, right? They're always a part of our life. We don't compartmentalize and say, oh, there's nothing going on with my family right now because I'm solely focused on my health and fitness. Of course not. They're all happening or part of our life all of the time. We are the common denominator for all of those things all of the time. So you see how by default, by making yourself the focus, it's like that ripple effect. Like putting or dropping a pebble or something in water, it has that ripple effect. It goes out in all directions, not just one. That's the same idea. Focus on you. You're the pebble. And by doing that, you just automatically affect all areas of your life. You send out ripples in all directions. And so that's what led to the Manifesting Me concept that I teach and coach on and, talk about in all different ways, because making ourselves the focus is how to more easily and more quickly experience results in all areas of our life. So why not use this time of year then, this last quarter, this fall season, to dream up your desired reality and the person who is experiencing it, and start showing up, thinking, and taking action like that person, as that person. And there's so many ways to do that, right? Like the way you dress, the decisions that you make, the questions that you ask yourself. There's infinite number of ways. So if this is something that you're interested in learning more about, reach out to me by email, vision, VISION at bluemoonmanifestations.com. And, I will give you information on the different, either services or workshops or whatever happens to be available, or, available, and what I have open at the time that you email me, instead of me trying to update it all the time for every episode, because people may listen to this at different times, obviously. So if that is something that you're interested in learning more about, simply email me and let me know, and I will get you information. So use this time of year, like I said, to dream up what you want life to look like, and then get clear on who is the person, who is that future version of you that is already living that? How are they different from the version of you right now? Do you get up at different times of the day? Do you schedule your days differently? Do you say no more often to people's requests? Do you say yes more often to, time with friends and family instead of working and hustling all the time? How is that future version of you living life? So that is really the overall message that I have for this episode, is to use this time of year, instead of beating yourself up and waiting until the beginning of the year, use this time to start dreaming up your new reality. Tap into the energies that are available and kind of, that we're all experiencing anyway, to dream up this new reality. And a few weeks ago, I started pulling a card for the week that I share in my weekly newsletter. And so today I thought I would share this week's card in here for the episode as well. And if this is something that you like, or that you might want to hear more regularly in these episodes, reach out to me by email as well, or wherever you happen to be listening to or watching this. If each platform is different, but if you can share comments or feedback in that way, feel free to do that there. But email is always a great way to make sure that I get that. And so the card that I pulled for the newsletter, and that I'm going to share with you now, is from the Moonology Manifestation Oracle deck. If you're not watching this on a video at all, then you're not seeing the box that I'm holding up. And the card I pulled is the first quarter moon in Capricorn. Unleash your kindest self. So for those that do have video, I am holding that card. Let's see, there's kind of straight. There we go. Up. So the message from that is, if things have not gone like you planned or like you wanted this year, for whatever reason, don't worry about the reasons. Instead of beating yourself up or criticizing or judging yourself, like we've been talking about, try being kind to yourself. Give yourself a bit of grace and compassion, and then tap into this energy, to this Capricorn energy that this card is sharing, and establish or start implementing a bit of discipline and go all freaking in for the last 3 months of this year, or whenever, you happen to catch this. And if you're catching this well in the future, you can apply this to any quarter of the year. There, like I said at the beginning, there is no magical, something more magical or special to the beginning of the year or the beginning of the month. Those just happen to be time frames that we go by. But if you're hearing this on the 12th of some month, start now. There's no need to wait for any particular day. We have access and we are able to do this at any given moment in time. So establish a little bit of discipline, go all in, make a plan, pencil in or put in your planner some action steps that you're going to take, and dream up this new existence, this new reality that you want to be experiencing that is different than the one you have now. And I like to point out too that this doesn't mean that you have to be in dire circumstances for this to apply to you. You can be in a place where things are good, you're liking the way life is. Why not amp it up even more? Why not go all in and see how much better you could do, or how much more fun you could have, or how many more adventures you could go on? Whatever is going well in your life and you don't have a specific response to what do you want to change, well, go all in with that and see how much more of it you can attract and receive and experience. So I said earlier that I would share an exercise with you to kind of help you out that you can try again at any time. And so we're in the fall quarter. We just started the fall season of 2023 when I'm recording this. It's October 3rd of 2023 when I'm recording this, and the podcast will be released tomorrow, which is October 4th. So anytime that you can do this exercise as well, just use the quarter that you're in, or 3 months from now. Let's say you're listening to this in the middle of any quarter, just go 3 months out from where you are right now. It works just perfectly at any given time. Just go out 3 months. So look ahead to the end of the quarter, or just look ahead 3 months. Let's say it that way. Ask yourself these questions. How do I want to feel? Who do I want or need to be? What do I want life to look and feel like? So those are the 3 questions. You can write them down in a journal, on Post-it notes, in a planner. And if you write it on a Post-it note, I invite you to put that Post-it note on the 3 months mark, the 3 months from now, or wherever, your benchmark is, or write them in your planner or in a journal so that you can answer them out. Give yourself some space to also write these down on. But the importance of 3 months from now is put something there to remind yourself about that, to check back in. So you've asked yourself these questions, you've put a reminder of some sort or documented it in a calendar or in a planner. And then start a list of action steps or activities that you can do that will make you feel the way you want to feel, that make you feel like the person you want to be, and that make you feel, how did I write that? That make you feel like it will feel like to live the life that you're envisioning. Write those action steps down. Write the activities that make you feel good. Write the types of clothes that you like to wear that make you feel confident, or that the accessories that you like to wear that make you feel good about yourself. Perfume or nail polish, or a certain type of clothes, or whatever it is. What activities can you participate in? Dancing, art, being silly, acting like a kid is something I highly recommend to everyone who is not doing that on a regular basis. movement, more consistent movement, better scheduling, putting yourself, I shouldn't say putting yourself, going to bed at a consistent time, at a different time. Any type of action or activity that comes to mind, brain dump it out and put some of them, calendar them in, plan them, make sure that you are aware of when you're going to be doing these things. And as more ideas come to you, add them to your list, because that's what's going to happen. The more that you start doing and taking action as a future you and doing these action steps, you're going to get ideas for other ones, or other ones will be revealed or suggested to you, or, come to you in some way or another. So make a list of all these activities and actions and things that make you feel the way you want to be feeling. And then when you reach that benchmark, the 3-month point, when you reach that page or get that reminder on your phone, ask yourself these questions. How do I feel today? And who am I today? Then you can compare and see how, did you reach the way you wanted to feel on your questions? Are you showing up? Are you embodying more the person that you wanted to be? And is life looking a little bit more like you wanted to? Or is it starting to move in that direction? You can accomplish so much. We all can, in 90 days, in 3 months, in a week. So please don't fall into that way of thinking that it's too late, that it's, this year is a waste or whatever. Whenever it is that you're listening to this, just go ahead and pick a 3-month period, ask yourself those questions, and start taking action and showing up as that version of you. And the more you do it, you will start to see changes in multiple areas of your life. So that's what I have for you guys today. I would love your feedback about what you think about this episode, what your experiences are, and also if there's specific topics that you would like me to talk about or share about or kind of dive into here on the podcast. So you can also email me those suggestions at vision@bluemoonmanifestations.com. And that is what I have for you guys today. So I will see you next week. Take care.